What is up YouTube, Nyks here, back again with another class video, and this time we're looking at the Berserker. So, where have I been for the past, I think week and a half? Yeah, so I haven't really posted as much as I should have anyway. The main reason for that is, again, exams. I think I said it in my last video as well. Just literally got finished doing an exam today. Hopefully I don't have any more coming up. I think there is actually like one more that I'm a bit worried about, but that should be fine. I tried to log on to the Bliss JP client, and I was just having the worst network issues that you could possibly imagine. Like, sometimes the game wouldn't even let me connect to the servers. I think it was just my VPN, to be honest. So like after I think 5 goes, I finally got the game footage that I wanted, and that was a relief. Currently it does work. It's been working fine for like the past 2 days, but again, I just haven't had time to sit down and record a video. But we finally have some time on our hands. Alright, so with that being said, let's get into the Berserker class. Okay, so for those people that are new to this is just going to be an early game overview of the Berserker. I won't be leveling these classes to max because I don't want to get burnt out before the NA launch. And yeah, it's just, since the game is getting released basically in like 2 months time, there's no point in doing it. I just want to get the general feel of the class, and I think this is the best way to going about doing that. So yeah, with that being said, let's just get straight into it. So the Berserker is a melee DPS class, and it's pretty obvious. It's using a freaking big fuck off axe as its main weapon, and yeah, it's capable of doing quite a lot of damage, at least in the early skills anyway. I wouldn't say it's on par with like something like the mage, because the mage is just on another like magnitude of damage. But yeah, I think the Berserker does a fair amount of damage, possibly on par with something like the Ranger, but in a more burst format. It's surprising how similar the Berserker playstyle is to a mage, when it comes to mobility at least. They do have a dodge roll as their main escape ability, and you can use it twice in a row, which kind of helps, but considering the distance traveled from that dodge roll isn't that much, it really doesn't help you with catching up to people and all that. So you are kind of limited when it comes to chasing down your enemies, and I guess that's the playstyle, to be honest. You take damage, you dish damage, and it's all kind of slow as far as the early game abilities go anyway. So yeah, when it comes to armor, they do wear plate, so they're able to tank quite a lot of damage. I think their plate armor is actually better than some of the other classes that wear plate. They get a special type of plate armor. I'm not sure what it's called. I'm not sure if we're going to get it in our version, but that's just the things that I've read online. So take that for what you will. And I just know that from leveling this guy up, Berserkers can genuinely take more hits than any of the previous classes that I've mentioned. But again, when they wear plate armor, you are more susceptible to magic damage, which is a problem, I guess. But again, mages do a shit ton of damage anyway, so who gives a shit when you're getting 2-shot, right? And I know it kind of sucks that they do lack mobility for the most part. It's not really a place where they excel at all, but they do make up for it when it comes to just the sheer amount of damage they can tank, as well as the CCs that they can provide to a team fight. And that's kind of just your playstyle, go in, tank the damage, get the people down or stun them, and let your team do the damage. In terms of class availability, Berserkers can be played by quite literally all the classes apart from the elves, whether that be the Sylvian elves or the Aqua elves. And yeah, you can actually play them on the mass queue, which is really cool. You're gonna have little tanky motherfuckers running around, sadly. Okay, so before I get into the abilities of the Berserker class, I just want to let you guys know, just like in the previous videos, I won't be leveling each of these classes to max level, not even close. I'm just going to level them up to level 6. I don't want to go too in depth into it, just because it is the Japanese client and it's not the version that we're getting. Plus I am going to make a video on each of the 7 classes, and this is just to give you guys a general feel of the class, not necessarily how it's going to play out at end game. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into the abilities. Okay, so for our first ability we have our basic strike, and yes, that is what it's called in the translations. And yeah, it's your basic right click, nothing really too fancy when it comes to how the skill plays out. When you right click, it does a swing in front of you. The only thing that's interesting about it, that it does actually cleave, and so what that basically means for those people that don't know is it'll hit all the enemies that it actually comes in contact with, not just the one that you've targeted currently. Much like all the other right clicks, it does combo into consecutive strike and forward strike. So combos into 3 different hits, each dealing just a little bit more damage, and it generates rage, which is your mana per se. One thing that I do find interesting about practically all of the Berserker's skill animations is the fact that they really do feel impactful, and I don't really know how to put this into words. You kind of have to play it and like feel it for yourself. Like each swing kind of has a weight behind it, like you feel the momentum. I'm kind of like in Terra, and yeah, it just feels really hard hitting. Make of that what you will. I think it just feels satisfying, so that's something to look out for. With your right click you can move around while casting it, and I think that that's really important since your movement speed isn't really hindered. You kind of just move at the same movement speed you would have, except from the fact that I think you can't sprint during this, but that's the same with every other class. So yeah, that's your basic right click. Okay, next up we have Irregular Strike. This is going to be your first charge up skill that you get. It inflicts more damage than your right click, and you have to charge it before attacking. Earlier on in the game, I didn't really charge it. I didn't even realize it was a charging ability. I was just using it as a normal ability. I was doing like shit all damage. So you can charge it, and your movement speed will decrease dramatically. It's a 75% movement speed slow. So you got to keep that in mind. Again, this is, as I was mentioning earlier, like really, it's just slow. Berserker is kind of a slow class. Quite a lot of its abilities make him go quite slow, but you are a tank of some sorts. You can dish out damage if you get in range, but you can also take hits if you aren't in range. And yeah, the ability has a 7-second cooldown. Animation wise, it's quite average. It just makes your weapon glow while you're charging it. The charge time is 1 second, so got to keep that in mind when you're trying to time your cooldowns and do your combo chains. And you can thank God you can cancel it, because Jesus, 75% movement slow, not a big fan of that. And yeah, that is your first charging ability. Next up we have Skull Crush as your third offensive ability. Again, it inflicts damage, has a 16-second cooldown, and is also a charging ability, but this time it can be charged up to 2 bars, which basically means for 2 seconds, and does increasing damage the more you charge it. So again, you can't overcharge it after 2 bars, but at 2 bars you will do more damage. And along with this, it has the ability to knock down your enemies. Now, I've tested this in PvE. The knockdown is an AoE, so if you have a bunch of mobs that you've pulled, if you land this, you are guaranteed a knockdown, which is really, really cool. I'd love to see how this plays out in PvP. I think it would be really interesting in world PvP as well. And yeah, the ability looks quite familiar in terms of the animation to our first charging ability, in the sense that your weapon glows, but this time it's held in a overhead swing instead of a horizontal swing. After you use this ability, if you do use Finishing Strike, which is one of the other abilities, you will increase the crit chance on that for 5 seconds, which is, again, a really good bonus. You knock your enemies down and you crit the shit out of them. 10 out of 10. Ooh, I almost missed this one. Your first and your only, at least from what I know, evasive ability is Roll. And yeah, it does what it says it does. It allows you to roll away and consumes your stamina. Much like the other classes, your escape ability, Roll in this case, removes all current CCs that have been applied on you, and during the duration of its animation, no CCs can be applied on you, so they're basically nullified. Again, you can spam this twice in a row to get away from someone or to chase someone. Chasing is what you're probably going to be doing for the most part. And the only other thing that Roll has above all the other escape abilities is the fact that it does increase your movement speed for 2 seconds after it's cast, so that might help you catch up to someone. Probably not a ranger though, but someone like a mage is a pretty easy target. Next up we have Assault, or as I like to call it, Leap Strike. So what this ability does, you'd probably already guessed, it leaps you towards your enemies and it inflicts damage, but what this ability is kind of made for is knockdown enemies. As you've probably already read from the ability prompt, the damage increases when used against a knockdown enemy. So yeah, if you combo this with Skull Crusher, you can actually get really high amounts of DPS out. And that's basically what it's used for. Animation wise, it is probably my favorite ability of the Berserker. The leap has a pretty long range. I think 15 meters was the maximum I was able to leap. And yeah, once the leap is finished, it leaves like this really nice looking damage area around the ground. It looks like the floor is like ruptured and there's like lava coming out. That's basically the only reason that this is probably the best ability in my opinion that the Berserker has, animation wise anyway. And lastly you have, I can't say this, I don't know what it means, I'm just gonna call it Rupture. So what Rupture does is it inflicts a base amount of damage, and its special effect is it deals more damage if the enemy's health is lower. So it's kind of like Axe's ult from Dota 2. The lower the enemy's health, the more damage this thing deals. It says at the bottom here that while Requiem is in effect, cooldown is removed. So I don't know what Requiem is, I haven't really looked into it that far, but I'm guessing it's some sort of debuff that you put on your enemy from one of your other skills, maybe in another tree or something like that. So it'll be interesting to find out, you know, how people use this to their advantage and kind of spam this, because that could be broken in many different levels. When it comes to animations, it's basically like a big fuck off axe to the ground. Like that's really what it is. You just smash your axe right through your enemy overhand, and it leaves like these really nice particle effects during the animation. And hey, just like your leap, it opens the freaking ground up, leaving lava there. So, you know, that's not bad. Cooldown wise, it has a 8-second cooldown, so not the biggest cooldown, and the effective distance is 4 meters. And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. If you're looking for a class that's able to take damage and deal it, but isn't so mobile, the Berserker might be the class for you. Again, most of its abilities have their ups and downs when it comes to what they give you. Most of them are really high damage, but while they're active, you get like a movement speed debuff of like 75%. So you win some, you lose some. Alright, that's pretty much going to be the end of the video. Again, if this helped you out, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, subscribing to my channel would really help me out. And yeah, I should be back to my regular uploading schedule of like at least one video a week from now onwards. Probably going to be putting out some more Bliss related videos, possibly about what I think is going to happen during launch and what my plans are anyway. And yeah, hopefully you guys tune in. Again, like if you liked the video, dislike if you didn't like it. Let me know what you guys think of the Berserker in the comments below. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Peace.